The attack on the human frontier colony of Humyn Ridge began on a quiet morning. The sun had just risen above the mountains, sending soft golden light across the small houses, farms, and gardens. People were starting their day, unaware that danger was already falling from the sky. Evelyn Harper, a 72-year-old grandmother, stood outside her small home, watering her tomato plants. She wore a warm cardigan, soft shoes, and glasses that always slid down her nose. Anyone who looked at her would think she was the most harmless person in the galaxy. Even her grandchildren joked that she could barely open a pickle jar without help. But they did not know her whole story. Many years ago, she had been someone else, someone much more dangerous, someone the military once called Ghost Orchid. Evelyn had ended her service, raised her children, and lived a quiet life. She thought her days of danger were long behind her. That morning, however, trouble returned. A thunderous roar shook the sky, making birds scatter in every direction. Evelyn looked up, and her eyes narrowed behind her glasses. A massive dark shadow passed over the colony. Large ships, metallic, sharp, and covered in strange purple symbols, appeared above the clouds. The Korthrak's dominion had arrived. They were known across space for their cruel raids and powerful armies. Wherever they went, destruction followed. People screamed. Sirens activated across the colony. Children ran toward shelters, while adults shouted for their families. But everything happened too fast. Bright beams of energy shot from the ships, creating walls of light that trapped the colony inside. No one could escape. Evelyn set down her watering can and took a deep breath. "So, it's one of those days," she muttered softly. Korthrak soldiers descended from their ships, tall reptilian creatures with dark scales and glowing eyes. They carried advanced weapons and moved with strict discipline. They pushed humans into groups, searching for anyone who looked dangerous or important. Evelyn watched them carefully from behind a collapsed fence. She moved slowly, pretending to be confused and weak, blending into the frightened crowd. A soldier scanned her with a small device and frowned. "Age, 72. Weak. Untrained," the device said in a robotic alien voice. The soldier hissed, "This one is nothing." Evelyn almost laughed. If only they knew. She kept her head down as the soldiers continued their inspection. They gathered engineers, security officers, and young adults into separate groups, assuming they were the only ones who could resist. The older humans and children were left aside. Evelyn stayed calm. She had learned long ago that panic never helped anyone. But then something unexpected happened. A young boy, no more than 10, ran toward her. He was crying and calling for his mother, who had been pushed into the workers' group. A Korthrak soldier stepped forward to grab the boy. Before she realized it, Evelyn moved toward them. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice sharp and commanding. The Korthrak soldier turned, surprised by the bold tone. Evelyn stood straight, her eyes fierce. "That boy is scared. There's no need to grab him like that." Several soldiers looked at her. Her voice had been too confident, too firm, nothing like a weak old woman. Suspicion formed in their eyes. The Korthraks were not used to being spoken to like that, especially by a human elder. One soldier tapped his device again. "Emotional stability, unusually high. Heart rate, controlled. Reaction time, fast." The group of aliens exchanged looks. "This human elder may be hiding more strength than her age suggests," one said. Evelyn sighed inside. Her old habits had slipped out. She had spoken like a commander, not a grandmother. Before she could step back into the crowd, the aliens surrounded her. "Take her," the leader ordered. Two soldiers grabbed her arms, not harshly, but firmly. Evelyn didn't resist. She knew resistance right now would only end badly for everyone around her. She allowed them to lead her to a prison transport shuttle. "I'm really too old for this nonsense," she muttered as they pushed her inside. The shuttle flew toward the largest Korthrak's ship in orbit. their flagship, the Orcs Mall. Inside the shuttle, Evelyn stayed quiet, observing everything around her. Her sharp mind, trained long ago, analyzed details automatically. She memorized the location of cameras, the timing of guard patrols, and the layout of corridors. Her heart remained calm. When they arrived, the soldiers escorted her down a dark metal hallway with flickering lights. The air smelled cold and mechanical. The Korthrak's ship was designed for war, not comfort. The leader of the capture unit spoke to her. "You are unusually calm for a human elder." Evelyn pushed her glasses up her nose. "Crying won't solve anything, dear." The alien did not understand the gentle tone and interpreted it as disrespect. "This confidence is suspicious. We must test your weakness." They stopped in front of a massive steel door with glowing red warning symbols. The air vibrated with a low growl coming from behind it. "This is the containment pit of Vorkal," the leader said, with pride and fear. "Our deadliest bioengineered dragon beast. No creature survives in its presence." Evelyn raised her eyebrows slightly. "A dragon, you say? My grandchildren love dragon stories." The leader ignored her and pressed a panel. "Let us see if you are truly harmless." The heavy door slid open with a deafening rumble. A wave of hot, smoky air rushed out. The pit beyond was huge, like a natural cave reinforced with metal beams. The floor was covered in deep claw marks, broken stone, burnt surfaces, and the remains of destroyed machinery lay scattered everywhere. And in the center stood the creature. Vorkal was massive, bigger than a military tank. Its scales glowed faintly with blue energy. Sharp horns curved from its head, and its eyes burned like molten lava. Its wings were folded tightly, but even folded, they looked powerful enough to crush a small vehicle. The dragon beast growled deeply, shaking the walls. Evelyn observed it with quiet curiosity instead of fear. She noticed tiny metallic implants along its neck and spine, control devices. But some of the implants flickered irregularly. They were malfunctioning. The creature was in pain. The soldiers behind her shoved her forward. "Inside," the leader ordered. Evelyn stepped calmly into the pit. The door closed behind her with a loud clang, sealing her inside with the dragon. The guards expected her to scream. They waited for panic. But Evelyn simply brushed dust off her cardigan. "Well," she said softly. "Hello there." Vorkal's roar echoed through the chamber, so loud that dust fell from the ceiling. It lowered its head, ready to attack. Its eyes focused on her tiny human form. But Evelyn did not run. She took one careful step forward. Her voice remained steady. "I can see you're hurt," she murmured. "Those implants, they're causing you trouble, aren't they?" The dragon blinked, confused by her tone. It expected fear, not sympathy. Evelyn slowly reached into her pocket and pulled out a simple hairpin. Her old training whispered in her mind, "Assess, adapt, act." She walked toward the creature with steady confidence, every movement clear and gentle. "It's all right, big fellow," she said. "Let me take a look." Vorkal growled again, but something in her calm presence made it hesitate. For the first time since it had been created, the dragon did not strike. Evelyn stood before the creature, staring directly into its burning eyes. Her own eyes held no fear, only understanding and control. Without breaking eye contact, she slowly reached toward the malfunctioning implant at its neck. Behind the observation glass, Korthrak's soldiers froze. This human elder wasn't trembling. She wasn't helpless. She was in complete command, and they had absolutely no idea who they had just locked in with their monster. The moment Evelyn raised her hand toward Vorkal's neck implant, the giant dragon beast released a low rumble. It was not a roar this time, but a deep, uncertain growl. The creature's glowing eyes followed every tiny movement she made. Its breath came out in hot bursts, like short waves of fireless heat brushing against her skin. But Evelyn did not pull back. She had faced dangerous moments in her old life, situations where hesitation meant failure. Her body remembered the training, even if she had spent decades living as a quiet grandmother. Calm, steady breathing, clear focus, smooth movements. She was not a threat to the creature. She was a presence of control. Inside the observation room, the Korthrax guards watched with sharp attention. Many of them leaned closer to their screens, expecting the beast to snap at her any second. They whispered in confusion. Why is the Humyn not running? Why is Vorkal not attacking? Does she have some kind of device? She is empty-handed. Their confusion grew, but Evelyn paid no attention to them. Her focus was on the creature in front of her. A grandma and a dragon. Evelyn stopped just a few steps away from Vorkal. Up close, the dragon looked even more powerful. Its muscles were thick and coiled with strength. Its chest rose and fell in heavy breaths. The blue glow across its scales flickered unevenly, another sign of the implant malfunction. "You poor thing," she said softly, like talking to an injured pet. "Someone didn't take good care of you, did they?" The dragon blinked slowly. Its pupils widened for a moment. A confused expression, if dragons could have expressions, crossed its face. No one had ever spoken to it with kindness. It only knew orders, pain, and control. Evelyn reached out her hand, palm open. A long moment passed. Then, surprisingly, Vorkal lowered its massive head, bringing the damaged implant closer to her. The Korthrax guards gasped. She is taming it. This is impossible. No human, no creature has ever gotten that close." Evelyn ignored the noise behind the glass. She gently pressed her fingers around the implant. It sparked lightly, but she didn't pull away. The malfunction was clear. The implant was sending confused signals through the dragon's nervous system, causing pain and agitation. "Well, that explains the wild behavior," Evelyn said calmly. With her other hand, she pulled out the hairpin again. It was such a tiny, harmless-looking thing, just a simple metal pin. But Evelyn had always been creative under pressure. She had once escaped an entire hostage situation with nothing more than a sewing needle and a cup of tea. A broken implant? That was almost easy. A delicate fix. She slid the hairpin into a small crack in the implant's housing and twisted gently. The device sparked again, but Vorkal stayed still. The creature grunted softly, but it trusted her now. "That's it, big boy," she murmured. "Stay still. It's not your fault they installed this nonsense." She worked with patience, her hands steady. The implant's casing loosened. A soft beeping sound came from inside it. Evelyn tapped the device lightly, once, twice, then pulled a tiny wire free. The beeping stopped. The flickering blue glow across the dragon's scales steadied and brightened. The tension in Vorkal's muscles eased. The creature let out a low, deep exhale. Not a roar, and not pain. Relief. "That's much better, isn't it?" she said. Vorkal lowered itself all the way to the ground and nudged her gently with its massive snout. The gesture almost knocked her over, but she held her balance and smiled. You're a friendly one when you're not hurting." The guards stared in disbelief. "Vorkal is showing affection? Is that even possible? This human elder is unnatural." The leader of the Korthrax guards slammed his fist on the control panel. "This is not affection. It is confusion. The beast will attack once it regains strength." But deep down, even he did not believe his own words. A bond forms. Evelyn stepped back slightly, brushing dust from her cardigan. "Now then," she said, hands on her hips. "Let's see what else is wrong with you." As she walked around Vorkal, the creature shifted its body to follow her like a giant cat following its owner. Its massive tail curled protectively around her, forming a loose ring. Whenever she stopped, the creature lowered its head, waiting for instructions. She checked the creature's legs, wings, and chest, noticing several old scars. These weren't the scars of battle. They were marks of testing, training, and forced obedience. The sight hurt her heart. "You deserved better than this," she whispered. She placed a gentle hand on the dragon's nose. The creature closed its eyes. "It's all right now. I'll take care of you." Vorkal released a soft, rumbling sound, a purr if a dragon could purr. It echoed through the chamber, vibrating the walls. The Korthrak's guards scrambled in confusion. Their control panels showed something impossible. The beast's aggression levels had dropped to 0. Its neural stress indicators were low. Its heart rate was calm. Impossible. This has never happened. She bonded with it? The leader growled in frustration. This human elder is more dangerous than she appears. We must investigate her history. The watchful eyes of the aliens. While Evelyn continued checking the dragon's implants, the Korthrak's commander of the ship was informed about the situation. He arrived quickly, striding into the observation room with heavy steps. He looked at the screens and froze. A tiny human elder stood beside their deadliest creature, a creature that had crushed armored units, a creature that elders of the Korthrak's feared. And it was lying down like a gentle pet next to her. "Who is this human?" he demanded. "No record of importance," a guard replied. "She appears to be an ordinary colony elder." "Ordinary elders do not calm Vorkal. There is more to her." The commander studied Evelyn with sharp eyes. "Observe her. Do not interfere. If she is a threat, we will learn her true nature soon." But the truth was something the commander hadn't yet realized. He was already too late. Evelyn's old instincts wake up. Inside the pit, Evelyn finished her inspection. She sat down on a broken piece of metal debris, resting her back gently. "Phew, you're a big boy to look after," she told the dragon. Vorkal nudged her again and curled up like an enormous, scaly guardian beside her. Its body emitted a soft warmth that made the cold pit much more comfortable. Evelyn's mind was sharp and clear. The old instincts, those hidden parts of her identity that she tried to bury under peaceful years of family life, were coming alive again. Her training had always been simple. Stay calm. Observe everything, make a plan, and take action. "All right," she whispered to herself. "Let's think." She scanned the chamber. The metal beams, the control panels outside the glass, the guards' movements, the surveillance cameras. Every detail mattered. The Korthrak's thought she was a harmless elder. That was good. Being underestimated was a powerful advantage. Vorkal lifted its head and looked at her. Evelyn smiled. "Don't worry," she said. "I'm not planning anything dangerous, not yet anyway." The dragon tilted its head, confused. She chuckled softly. "You'll see, dear. You and I are going to get out of here, but we need to be patient." A subtle display of power. Evelyn stood up and walked toward the nearest wall. She pressed her hand against it, feeling the vibrations of machinery behind it. 3 generators, she muttered. 2 ventilation shafts, 1 main door system. Vorkal watched her with curious eyes. It sensed the change in her presence. Her calm grandmother warmth remained, but a new energy appeared, sharp, strategic, and commanding. She turned back to the creature. "Listen, sweetheart. I helped you. Now I need you to help me." The dragon straightened up. It understood tone better than words. Evelyn pointed toward a thick metal pillar. "Give me a quick burst of your heat, not too strong. Just enough to show them you're protective." The creature hesitated for a moment. Then it opened its mouth and released a small, controlled blast of blue-white flame at the pillar. The metal glowed bright red, then melted slightly. The observation room exploded with alarm. She commanded it. She gave the creature an order, and it obeyed. Evelyn gave a satisfied nod. "Good boy," she said. Vorkal let out another soft purr. Through the thick glass, the Korthrak's guards stared, fearfully, silently, and with growing dread. They had thrown an innocent-looking human grandmother into a cell with their deadliest weapon. But the dragon wasn't the one in control. She was. The Korthrak's flagship, Gorex Maul, floated silently in the darkness of space. Its steel walls were thick, and its security systems were strong. Every prisoner on board feared the alien soldiers who patrolled the halls. But today, something unusual was happening inside the ship. A 72-year-old human grandmother was sitting calmly next to a giant dragon beast, gently patting its huge shoulder as if it were nothing more than a large, scaly dog. Her presence was quiet, her actions were soft. But inside her mind, gears were turning. Evelyn Harper, once known as Ghost Orchid, was planning. A calm mind in a dangerous place. Evelyn leaned back against the warm body of Vorkal. The dragon beast had curled around her protectively, its tail forming a semicircle like a shield. Every few minutes it let out a small, content rumble. The creature trusted her completely now. Above the pit, the guards watched nervously. "What is she doing?" one whispered. "No idea, but she is definitely not normal. Should we intervene?" The Korthrak's commander shook his head. "Not yet. Study her. Humans can be unpredictable. We need to understand her." But Evelyn already understood them better than they understood her. She knew their patterns, their habits, their weaknesses. She had been watching them long before they realized she was a threat. Every time a guard changed position, every time a door opened, every time a light flickered, Evelyn noticed. Her eyes were soft and grandmotherly, but her mind was sharp, alert, and calculating. Whispers. From the cells. Far away from the dragon pit, in the ship's prisoner block, humans and other alien captives whispered quietly. The walls were lined with force fields that glowed blue, keeping them trapped inside small cells. The prisoners were scared, confused, and without hope. But a rumor had started spreading. "A human elder was thrown into the dragon pit," someone whispered. "And she didn't die?" "No." The guards looked terrified. The rumor grew into something greater. "Maybe she did something. Maybe she's special. Maybe she can help us." None of them knew who she really was. None of them knew she had once led impossible missions. None of them knew she had survived things worse than a Korthrak's flagship. But they were about to find out. Evelyn's first move. Inside the pit, Evelyn stood up slowly, stretching her back. "Well, my dear," she said to Vorkal, "it's time to get to work." The dragon lifted its head immediately, watching her closely, waiting for instructions. Evelyn looked at the far wall, where a small access panel was half concealed behind thick cables. She walked toward it, pretending to simply explore the chamber, but her eyes had spotted something important. The panel was old, poorly maintained, a perfect weakness. She tapped it lightly. Loose screws, poor workmanship," she said. Vorkal tilted its head. The creature didn't understand her words, but it sensed her focused energy. Evelyn bent down, pushed a cable aside, and slipped her hairpin into the panel's edge. With a gentle twist, the panel popped open. Inside was a cluster of wires, red, blue, yellow, green. She studied them carefully. "Too easy," she murmured. Using her hairpin once again, she tapped the yellow wire twice. A small spark. The lights above flickered. She tapped the blue wire. The observation screen glitched, showing static. She tapped the red wire. A soft beep came from outside. She smiled. That should get their attention. Confusion among the guards. Up in the control room, the Korthrak's guards jumped from their seats. "What was that? Why are the lights flickering? Is Vorkal attacking the walls?" The commander frowned. "No. Look." The screen showed Evelyn standing peacefully beside the open panel, cleaning the dust off her cardigan as if she had done nothing unusual. She touched the control panel, a guard said. With what tool? We saw no tools. She used her hairpin, one whispered. The commander narrowed his eyes. Send a technician to inspect the chamber after she leaves. Until then, do not open the door. He did not realize Evelyn was already 3 steps ahead of them. A silent signal. Back inside the pit, Evelyn gently closed the panel, but left the wires shifted slightly. The changes she made were subtle, so subtle a rushed technician wouldn't notice them. But they were enough to affect the ship's internal network. All right. Big boy, she told Vorkal, I need you to help me again. She pointed at the far corner where a large, heavy pipe ran across the ceiling. Could you give that a small push? Very gentle. Just enough to loosen it. Vorkal nodded. It rose to its full height, stretching its long neck, then pressed its forehead lightly against the pipe. A loud creak echoed through the room. The pipe shifted slightly. Perfect. Evelyn gave the creature a warm smile. Well done. You're very good at this. Vorkal preened proudly, puffing its chest. The guards panicked again. She is commanding it. The beast obeys her fully. This is dangerous, very dangerous. The commander clenched his jaws. This human elder must be watched every second. But Evelyn wanted to be watched. She needed their attention on her, so they wouldn't notice what her small sabotage had already triggered. Deep inside the ship's systems, the wires she repositioned caused a signal to bounce through the lower communication panels. It wasn't a message in human language, it was a pattern old prisoners might recognize. Tap, tap, pause, tap, 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 a coded knock, a human military pattern, a signal that said, I am here, stay ready. The prisoners react. In the prisoner block, one of the human captives, a former low-rank engineer, noticed the blinking pattern on the small control node near his cell. That's a code, he whispered. The aliens in the nearby cells looked confused. What code? What does it mean? The engineer pressed closer to the glass. Someone is sending a readiness signal. Someone inside the ship. From where? I don't know. But it's human. The fear in the prisoners' hearts slowly began to change into something else. Hope, Evelyn, and Vorkal. Prepare. Inside the pit, Evelyn walked slowly along the walls, observing every inch. She noticed the vibration patterns behind the metal sheets. 3 meters thick, she said, but old structure, 1 strong push from him and 1 good electrical disruption from me. She smiled. That should do it. When the time is right. Vorkal tapped its claws lightly on the floor, as if asking her for the next instruction. Evelyn laughed softly. Oh, don't be impatient. A good plan takes time. The dragon lowered its head affectionately. She patted its snout. We'll escape this place, and we'll free everyone else too. But we must move step by step. The dragon's loyalty. Evelyn sat down and took a slow breath. Her heart was steady. She had always been good under pressure. Even now, trapped in a pit on an alien warship, she felt calm. She looked up at Vorkal. You're not just a weapon, she said. You're intelligent, loyal. You didn't deserve the way they treated you. The creature made a soft sound deep in its throat. It moved closer, curling around her once again. You stay close, all right? She whispered. When everything begins, I need you ready. The dragon nodded, a simple nod, gentle, obedient. The guards watching trembled. This is not normal. This is terrifying. If she commands it to attack us, we won't survive. They didn't realize Evelyn didn't want violence. She wanted escape. She wanted safety. She wanted to protect everyone. But she would do whatever was necessary for the innocent, for the prisoners, and now for the dragon who trusted her. The uprising begins. Hours later, deep inside the ship's systems, Evelyn's earlier sabotage reached its final phase. Lights across the lower decks flickered again. Small at first, barely noticeable. Then, an entire section went dark. The prisoners looked up as their force fields flickered. "That was her," the engineer whispered. "She did something." In the dragon pit, Evelyn opened her eyes as the lights dimmed. "There it is," she said softly. "The first step." Verkal lifted its head. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. Not the soft eyes of a grandmother, but the eyes of a leader returning to her battlefield. "Get ready, big boy," she whispered. "We're about to start an uprising." The Orcs Maul was one of the mightiest ships in the Korthrak's dominion. Its armor was thick, its halls were long and dangerous, and its guards were trained to fight without fear. The Korthraks believed no prisoner could escape once taken inside, but they had never captured someone like Evelyn Harper, a 72-year-old grandmother with the mind of a legendary strategist and a giant dragon beast on her side. The ship's lights flickered for the third time in an hour. This time, the darkness lasted longer. The hallways glowed red as emergency lights activated. Alarms began to beep softly, signaling a system failure. In the prison block, captives looked up in surprise. In the control room, guards panicked. And inside the dragon pit, Evelyn stood up slowly, brushing dust off her cardigan. "It's happening," she whispered. Verkal lifted his massive head, sensing the shift in energy. The creature's eyes glowed bright blue. "Time to move, big boy," Evelyn said. Breaking out of the pit. The first thing Evelyn needed was a door. The pit door was thick and strong, designed to keep the dragon inside no matter what. But Evelyn had already studied every bolt, every beam, every weak point. She pointed to the large metal pillar Verkal had loosened earlier. "Give it one more good push," she instructed. Verkal moved forward. The floor trembled under his weight. With a low growl, he pressed his shoulder against the pillar and shoved hard. Crack! The metal split. Boom! The pillar crashed to the ground. The pit walls shook. Several bolts popped loose. The force of the collapse made the security door slide slightly out of alignment. "Perfect," Evelyn said calmly. She walked to the door and inspected it. The misalignment had created a small gap. Not enough for a human to slip through, but enough for a plan. "All right, sweetheart," she said to Verkal. "Hit the door, but not too hard. We don't want to trigger the failsafe explosion." The dragon nodded, inhaled deeply, and released a controlled blast of heat. It wasn't strong enough to melt the door entirely, but it softened the metal around the lock. Evelyn stepped forward and touched the metal. It was warm but soft. Excellent. She used the tip of her hairpin, her trusty, simple tool, and slid it into the melted lock. With a practiced twist, she disconnected the mechanism. The door slid open. The guards shocked. On the other side stood 3 Korthrak soldiers, staring in confusion and fear. The dragon growled. The guards froze. Evelyn stepped forward calmly. "Hello, dears," she said. "You might want to move out of the way." The guards did not move. Then Verkal leaned forward behind her, letting out a deep rumbling sound. The guards moved. They ran down the hallway as fast as they could, shouting alarms that meant, "The beast is loose! The human is controlling it!" Evelyn sighed. Well, that will certainly get their attention. But this was part of the plan. She wanted the Korthraks focused on her and the dragon. Their distraction would help the prisoners. The prisoner block awakens. As Evelyn and Verkal moved through the halls, sparks flew from damaged panels. Smoke drifted from broken vents. The ship groaned under the stress of failing systems. When Evelyn tapped those wires earlier, she had set off a chain reaction. Now whole sections of the ship were malfunctioning. In the prisoner block, The engineer who had noticed the code earlier saw his cell field flicker again. "Look," he exclaimed. "The power is dropping." The other prisoners watched in disbelief as several force fields dropped completely. Doors opened. Prisoners stepped out. The quiet hall turned alive with movement. A young woman pointed down the hallway. "We need to find whoever sent that signal." But before anyone could answer, a deep roar echoed through the entire deck, a roar that shook the walls. Some prisoners looked terrified. The engineer, however, whispered, "That wasn't a threat. That was a warning." Then he added, "I think the person who helped us is coming." Walking through the ship. Evelyn walked confidently through the metal corridors, Vorkal towering behind her like a living fortress. Every time a guard turned a corner and saw them, the guard ran the other way. "I suppose we've made an impression," Evelyn said politely. The dragon huffed proudly. She kept her eyes sharp, scanning every detail. She counted doors, memorized junctions, and mentally mapped the ship. Her gentle grandmother face did not match the sharp calculations happening in her mind. At one hallway, a group of Korthrak's soldiers tried to block her path. They held energy spears and shouted commands. "Do not move! Do not approach!" Evelyn sighed softly. "Boys, this is not your best idea." One soldier stepped forward aggressively. Vorkal growled. The soldier froze. "All right, sweetheart," Evelyn said. "Give them a little warning." Vorkal opened his mouth and released a small burst of heat, just over their heads. The metal ceiling glowed bright red. The soldiers dropped their weapons and fled. Evelyn nodded. "Very good. Minimal damage. No need to frighten them too much." But deep inside, she felt a powerful surge of energy, her old self awakening fully. She felt alive. Reuniting with the prisoners. When Evelyn and Vorkal reached the prisoner block, they found dozens of freed captives standing in shock. The engineer stepped forward cautiously. "Are you the one who sent the signal?" Evelyn smiled warmly. "Yes, dear, and we don't have much time. The ship's core systems will reset soon. We must move." The prisoners stared at Vorkal nervously. "Don't worry," Evelyn said. "He's with me." The dragon lowered its head respectfully to the prisoners. A few gasped. One young man whispered, "I can't believe a grandmother is leading us." Evelyn chuckled. "Age has its advantages. No one sees you coming." The march to the bridge. With the prisoners behind her and Vorkal beside her, Evelyn led the group through the ship. Each hallway they passed grew more chaotic. Wires sparked, panels blinked. Guards ran in panic. The Korthrak's commander watched the screens in disbelief. "She is leading an uprising," he growled. "With our own weapon," a guard cried. "Stop her!" the commander roared. "Stop her before she reaches the bridge!" But every attempt to block her failed. Doors malfunctioned, lights went out, and every time guards stood in her way, Vorkal would roar softly, and they scattered. Finally, Evelyn reached the large steel doors of the command bridge. She studied them. "Strong door," she said, "but unstable power." She pointed to the corner. "Big fellow, a small blast right there, please." Vorkal's flame burst, hit the exact spot. The door sparked and slid open halfway before jamming. Evelyn squeezed through the gap with surprising agility. "Mind your wings, dear," she told the dragon, as he forced his way inside behind her. Facing the commander. The bridge was bright and filled with control panels. The Korthrak's commander stood at the center, surrounded by guards. He stepped forward, snarling. "You, human elder, you dare—" Evelyn interrupted. "Please, sweetheart, we're past introductions. You've been very rude to your prisoners." The commander hissed and raised his weapon. Vorkal stepped between Evelyn and the commander, growling so loudly the windows shook. The commander's weapon clattered to the floor. Evelyn walked forward, hands behind her back. "No fighting," she said calmly. "No one needs to get hurt. Just stand down." The guards looked at their leader. Their eyes showed fear, not of the dragon, but of the calm human who commanded it like a seasoned general. Finally, the commander dropped to one knee. "We surrender." Evelyn nodded. "Good choice, dear." The ship falls under new leadership. With the bridge secured, Evelyn used the control panels to unlock all remaining cells. She disabled the weapons, turned off the alarm, and sealed the main corridors to prevent further conflict. The prisoners cheered. The guards surrendered. The enormous flagship of the Korthrak's dominion now answered to a grandmother in a cardigan. Evelyn wiped dust off her hands. "Well, that went smoother than expected." Vorkal nudged her gently. She smiled up at him. "You did wonderfully. I'm proud of you." The dragon purred. And across the galaxy, a new legend quietly began. The story of the human grandmother who captured an enemy flagship without firing a single weapon. The great flagship Gorx Maul floated quietly in space. Moments ago, it had been a symbol of fear, one of the strongest warships of the Korthrak's dominion. Now it was strangely peaceful. Inside the bridge, Evelyn Harper stood in front of the main window, her cardigan a little dusty, her hair slightly out of place, but her posture calm and steady. Beside her, Vorkal, the giant dragon beast once feared by the galaxy, rested like a loyal guardian. Around her, former prisoners secured control panels and tied down surrendered Korthrak's guards. They worked with surprising cooperation. Hope filled their eyes. Evelyn looked at the stars outside and breathed slowly. "It's almost over," she whispered. The human fleet arrives. A young former prisoner, now helping run communications, rushed to Evelyn's side. "Ma'am, we are receiving signals. A human fleet is approaching." Evelyn smiled. "Took them long enough." On the screen, dozens of human ships appeared, sleek, white, and bright, shaped like arrowheads. They slowed down as they reached the flagship. Human pilots sounded confused and cautious. "Unknown situation on Korthrak's flagship. Power readings unstable. Is the ship under new command?" The communication officer looked at Evelyn nervously. "What should we tell them?" Evelyn walked calmly to the console, pressed a button, and spoke with the gentle confidence of a grandmother who knew exactly what she was doing. "This is Evelyn Harper," she said. "I have secured the ship. The prisoners are safe. The Korthrak's crew has surrendered." There was silence from the human fleet. Then a stunned voice came through. "Grandma Harper?" Evelyn blinked. "Oh dear, they recognized me." Another voice came. "Is this the Grandma Harper? The one who took down the pirate base on Vega 9 30 years ago?" Evelyn sighed softly. "I asked the military to delete those files." The officer whispered to the others, "She's a legend!" Vorkal let out a proud rumble, as if saying, "Of course she is. Human command reacts." On the flagship Silver Dawn, Admiral Rowan listened in disbelief. She had heard stories of Ghost Orchid, stories whispered secretly in old military records. A woman who completed impossible missions, a strategist with unmatched patience, a calm force in the face of chaos. But she never expected Ghost Orchid to also be a gentle grandmother. "Connect me to her," the Admiral ordered. Evelyn appeared on the Admiral's screen. "Hello, dear," Evelyn said kindly. "Lovely uniform you're wearing." Admiral Rowan cleared her throat, trying not to sound shocked. "Mrs. Harper, you captured a Korthrak's flagship?" Evelyn shrugged lightly. "Not alone. I had help." Right on cue, Vorkal lifted his head and appeared behind her. The Admiral's jaw dropped. That's the Dominion's most dangerous dragon beast." Evelyn smiled warmly. "Oh, he's a sweetheart once you get to know him." Vorkal let out a soft purr. Securing the future. It took several hours for the human fleet to fully take over the ship. Evelyn guided them patiently, explaining the weakened areas, the downed systems, and the sabotage she had done. The human engineers were amazed. "You did all this with a hairpin?" one asked. Evelyn nodded. "Well, and a dragon." Together, humans and former prisoners escorted the Korthrak's guards into safe holding areas. Not once did Evelyn allow unnecessary force. "No harming them," she said firmly. "They surrendered peacefully." Her calm authority made everyone listen. Even the Korthrak's guards felt confused. Many expected punishment or anger. Instead, this small human elder offered them water, blankets, and gentle words. "War ends when kindness begins," she told them. The Korthrak's commander looked at her with disbelief. "You are strange. Humans are usually fiery, loud, violent." Evelyn smiled kindly. "Oh, humans can be many things, dear." The commander bowed his head slightly. "If all humans were like you, perhaps our worlds would not be at war." Evelyn patted his arm softly. It's never too late to start understanding each other. A new home for a dragon. With the prisoners safe and the ship secured, Evelyn stepped into a private room to think. Vorkal squeezed through the doorway, curling beside her like a giant cat. He gently placed his massive head in her lap. She stroked his warm scales. "You did wonderfully," she said softly. The dragon rumbled happily. But a question sat heavy in her heart. "What's going to happen to you now, big boy?" she whispered. Vorkal tilted his head, sensing her worry. A knock sounded at the door. "Come in," Evelyn said. Admiral Rowan entered, holding a datapad. She hesitated when she saw Vorkal so close, but Evelyn motioned her forward. "Don't worry, he won't bite." The Admiral cleared her throat. We want to offer you something." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "A medal? No. A speech? No. A retirement bonus? No." Evelyn crossed her arms. "Well then, what is it?" The Admiral took a deep breath. "A position." "A position?" Evelyn blinked. The Admiral nodded. "The Cooperative Species Protection Unit, it's a new program. We need diplomats, teachers, and strategists. People who can create peace, not war." Evelyn looked down at Vorkal. "And what about him?" The Admiral smiled. "He goes with you, of course. He trusts you more than anyone." Vorkal rumbled proudly. Evelyn laughed softly. "Oh dear, I suppose I'm adopting a dragon." Returning to humans. When Evelyn returned to human space, crowds gathered to see her. Reporters wanted interviews. People stared at Vorkal in amazement. Children pointed and waved. Adults whispered in disbelief. Soldiers saluted her. But Evelyn simply smiled, waved, and held the dragon's reins gently. She did not enjoy fame. She did not want medals. She only wanted peace. A little girl walked up to her with nervous eyes. "Miss Grandma, is that your dragon?" Evelyn knelt down with a kind smile. "He's my friend." The girl touched Vorkal's warm nose. The dragon lowered his head gently, making the girl giggle. "Wow, he's soft," Evelyn whispered. "Kindness tames more than strength ever will." A new life begins. Weeks passed. Evelyn settled into a small home near a peaceful lake. She planted tomatoes, flowers, and herbs. Her garden became famous, not because of the plants, but because a massive dragon beast often lay peacefully among the roses, carefully avoiding the vegetables. Neighbors visited often. "Mrs. Harper, your dragon is eating the apples again." "Oh, Vorkal, dear, not the apples," she would say. The dragon would look guilty, then eat another apple. Life was strange, but peaceful. And whenever the Cooperative Species Protection Unit needed help, Evelyn would travel with Vorkal to guide discussions, calm conflicts, and stop misunderstandings before they turned into wars. Sometimes her presence alone stopped arguments, because every species in the galaxy now knew the same truth. You do not underestimate a human grandmother. A legend. Across the stars, across the galaxy, stories began to spread. Stories of Grandma Harper and her dragon, stories of how she tamed the Dominion's deadliest creature, stories of how she captured a warship without violence, stories of how she brought peace with nothing but calm words and a gentle heart. Korthrak's children whispered the tale with awe. Human children pretended to be brave grandmas with dragon allies. Scholars wrote books. Artists painted murals. Leaders quoted her wisdom. And in the Korthrak's Dominion's threat database, a new entry was made. Human Elder. Subtype, Grandma Extreme Danger. If encountered, retreat immediately. Evelyn never saw that entry. Even if she did, she would simply laugh. Because in her heart, she wasn't a warrior, a commander, or a symbol. She was just a grandmother who refused to let fear win. The galaxy's gentle guardian. One evening, as the sun set behind her quiet home, Evelyn sat on her porch with a cup of tea. Vorkal lay nearby, his scales glowing softly in the fading light. "They think I'm some kind of hero," she said softly. The dragon looked at her with gentle eyes. "But all I did was help those who needed it." Vorkal nudged her shoulder affectionately. Evelyn chuckled. Well, maybe that's what a hero is. She leaned back, watching the stars appear one by one. "Come on, big boy," she whispered. "Let's rest. Tomorrow, we might have another adventure." The dragon curled around her protectively, and together they watched the night fall over a peaceful world. A dragon, a grandmother, and a galaxy forever changed by kindness.